Hi there, your favorite deep dive show, Get Me Right, is back. This week, as always, two topics. India lost a gem of a son with the death of Ratan Tata this week. While the legendary business leader and through his life, the House of Tatas, have been profiled all through the week, this also is an occasion to recall the Parsis, a microscopic minority of the country, and their tremendous contribution to India's march to progress through last 2 centuries. It's amazing they have done that without cribbing and without seeking a single privilege for their minority status. Also this week, Elon Musk appeared at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania in the United States. Let us use the occasion to focus on corporate America's relationship with American politics, reflecting their clear ideological positions through corporate funding. It's a nice pattern you would love to know about. So sit back and watch. Tata patriarch Ratan Tata passed away due to age-related issues in Mumbai this Wednesday. He was 86 and ailing for a while. Perhaps his last public message was on Swachta Mission, the cleanliness drive led by Prime Minister Modi, thus underscoring his commitment to philanthropy and greater public good, even in his goodbye moments. Credited with the turnaround of the Tata Group after taking charge in 1991, Ratan Tata also took it global, making marquee brands like American and British names, Jaguar, Land Rover and Tetley Tea, into Indian brands. Acquisitions around the world under his watch meant that the House of Tatas became an India-origin global brand with 65% plus of its revenues coming from international operations by the time he first demitted office in 2012. Like his business, Ratan Tata also took his philanthropy global with Tata Group donations to universities like the University of California and Cornell, with campuses named after Tata Group companies giving high prestige visibility to brand India. And how can we forget the Tata Nano project, which was more a vision than a business? But this is not a Ratan Tata obit. Have you wondered how this microscopic minority of India called Parsis produced so much social and national wealth over 2 centuries for our country? The Parsis came to India following religious persecution at the hands of marauding hordes of Arab Muslim forces that ran over medieval Persia. This was 7th century. Landing up at Sanjan port, near what is Navsari, today's Gujarat, Parsis had to convince that they would get fully assimilated with the local society. Legend has it that when the king showed them a glass of milk full to the brim, suggesting that the place was already full and not available for more people, one of the community leaders put a spoon of sugar in it that dissolved, suggesting in return that the Parsis would mix with the society just like that sugar in milk without any disruption. That contract has lasted over a millennium, with the Parsis becoming the most successful minority in a nation, perhaps anywhere in the world. In many ways, India owes a huge debt to Parsi individuals and a bunch of Parsi families, from the Tatas to Godrej's, from the Wadias to the Mistris, for laying the foundation of modern and economically vibrant India as far back as 18th century. The House of Tatas was set up in 1868 by Jamsetji Tata. Ardeshir Godrej set up his group in 1897. The Wadia Group, which owns Bombay Dyeing among other brands, was formed in 1736. Imagine, those were still the days of the Mughal Empire. Asia's oldest newspaper, Mumbai Samachar, published in Gujarati language from Mumbai, completed 200 years. Yes, 2 centuries in 2021. It is the only newspaper, perhaps, that has reported on the 1857 mutiny on Rani Lakshmi Bai, as also the 2024 general elections. And it is owned by the Parsi family of Kamas. Such was the vision of these stalwarts that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru called Jamsetji Tata a one-man planning commission. And why not? From the first steel plant to first 5-star hotel, from first textile mill to first airline, and innumerable industries in between, Parsis set India on road to industrialization through their entrepreneurial vision, at least half a dozen world-class research institutes, from the IISc in Bengaluru to the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, from the Cancer Research Institute to the Energy Institute, owe their origins to generous Tata grants. Much before freedom movement became mainstream mass imagination, much before the advent of Gandhi and Gokhale, an old man, actually called the grand old man of Indian politics, Dadabhai Naoroji was trudging a lonely furrow in the UK House of Commons in London, making a case for India's independence through his speeches and private member bills. That was in the 1890s. Naoroji was also one of the founders of the Congress, shepherded by A.O. Hume. We know the story of the two homies, Homi Jahangir Bhabha, the father of India's nuclear program, and Homi Nusserwanji Setna, who spearheaded the Atomic Energy Commission at the time of India's first nuclear test in 1974. Almost all of the first round of India's nuclear power plants were set up under Setna's stewardship. Any guess where Bhabha shepherded much of our atomic program? At the Tata-funded TIFR. He, of course, went on to establish the International Atomic Energy Agency, becoming its first scientific advisor. And those of my generation remember the last of the lectures of constitutional lawyer Nani Palkiwala on, guess what, India's annual budget. He would make them large, addressing huge crowds at the Brabourne Stadium in Mumbai. Perhaps only a Parsi could hold a budget discussion in a cricket stadium packed to capacity. And just in case you thought Parsis excelled only in boring stuff like nuclear physics and law, Freddie Mercury of the Queen rock band was a Parsi originally named Farooq Balsara, with his parents having migrated from Mumbai to London via Zanzibar. Those from that generation would connect with the names of cricketers Paulie Umrigar, Nari Contractor, and Rusi Surti. How can we forget the legend of General Sam Manekshaw, who scripted independent India's most celebrated military victory in the 1971 war with Pakistan, recently profiled in the Bollywood flick Sam Bahadur. Zubin Mehta, who has directed or conducted Montreal Symphony Orchestra, Los Angeles Philharmonic, and the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, is also a Parsi. Coming from Vadodara in Gujarat, I have profiled India's first woman photographer, Homai Vyarawala, and been witness to the works of artists like Jahangir Sabawala, among others. There must be something about the community that makes them so successful and giving. There's this story about Nusli Wadia. As a young executive in his father's company, the Bombay Dyeing, he came to know of his father's plans to sell it off and cash out. Nusli mobilized his family, friends, and even workers at the Bombay Dyeing Mill to mop up 11% shares that were required to prevent the sale and retain management. The rest, as they say, is history. It's a corporate legend now of how Ford humiliated Tatas struggling with their car business in 1999, telling Ratan Tata they would do a favor to him if they bought Tata Motors, only to be rescued during the 2008 global financial crisis when the collapsing Jaguar Land Rover brand was bought by Tata. It was the turn of Ford chairman Bill Ford to eat humble pie and thank Tata. "You're doing us a big favor by buying JLR," was the return compliment to Ratan Tata. Parsis belong to one of the oldest religions in the world, based on the teaching of their prophet, Zarathustra or Zoroaster, who lived thousands of years ago. The faith he preached of an epic battle between a powerful deity, Ahura Mazda, and an evil spirit, in which his followers should do everything in thoughts, words, and deeds to aid the side of light, was passed down orally for centuries before it was committed to parchment. It became the dominant religion of Persia for more than a millennium until the advent of Islam in the 7th century. Shorn of rituals, the Parsis of India practice a minimalist religion that emphasizes good thoughts, good deeds, and good words. A fundamental Zoroastrian belief is that Ahura Mazda created the world and created it perfect. All suffering, misery, disease, and death are external assaults by the cosmic force of evil, Angra Mainyu. As they believe the world is the good creation of Ahura Mazda, there is a religious obligation to enjoy it. All this makes the Parsis of India gregarious and giving. They are very charitable. They donate their money for the welfare of the community and society. The point is that you can be a minority, a minuscule minority, a woefully outnumbered minority, and still make a difference, still grow and become rich, still create wealth and be powerful, become a constructive pillar of the society you are in, integrate and assimilate, even as you maintain your distinct cultural roots and value system, and not crib and cry, not create a minority psychosis in your community, not peddle fear narrative, not seek to monopolize discourse, not make disruptive claims, not fracture the motherland that gave you harbor and shelter when things were not good. Sikhs have done similarly and spectacularly in India. Other minorities in the country and around the world should take note and be inspired. Moving on to our second story this week. Amid the high-pitched US presidential election campaign that's peaking to November 5 D-Day, showman, tech entrepreneur and Tesla chief Elon Musk appeared at a Donald Trump rally this week in Butler, Pennsylvania, the same place where Trump was shot at in July. Musk even made a short speech emphasizing the importance of registering and voting. He, of course, has come out in full support of Trump, not just by way of campaign finance, but fully backing the truck, as they would say. He has endorsed most Trump positions, from illegal immigration to tax cuts, from foreign relations to abortion. Yes, abortion is a big issue in the United States. Musk has made his social media presence all about evangelism on the Trump campaign, even more strongly than some big-name Republicans. Reports of Wall Street Journal and The Guardian suggest that Musk has already spent upwards of $70 million on Trump campaign. Journal had also reported on Musk committing to spend $45 million plus every month till elections, which, however, was denied by him. What got me curious instead was the manner in which corporate America engages with political America. The ease and transparency with which voters can access information on these engagements and account for them in their decision-making. More importantly, for us watching the United States from outside, the pattern that emerges of which industries support which ideology or which sectors of economy are pro-Republican and which pro-Democrats. It's an interesting patchwork quilt you would love to watch. Top 5 American corporations donating to Democrats are NewsWeb, Alphabet, Netflix, Microsoft, and Arista Group. Top 5 corporations donating to Republicans, on the other hand, are Blackstone, Palantir, Charles Schwab, ICE Group, and Liberty. This is not a very exhaustive list, but gives you an idea of how majority donors of Democrats are new-age tech companies, while the Republicans get old world fund management and insurance backing. Specific to Trump and Harris campaigns, the pattern becomes clearer. The top 5 Trump donors include American Airlines, Walmart, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and the United Airlines. Top 5 Harris donors include Google, Microsoft, Brown & Brown, Johnson & Johnson, and Apple. The list of top 20 donors respective to the campaigns reinforce the picture even further. Typically, old world businesses, those heavy on energy resources like petrol, airlines, and automobiles, and from the world of investment and finance, retail and real estate, are all pro-Trump. New age tech and software, on the other hand, are exclusively Kamala Harris, like Amazon, Nvidia, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Facebook, do not donate to Trump. In the month of July, Netflix co-founder and chairman Reed Hastings endorsed Kamala Harris for president and donated $7 million to her campaign. The announcement saw Trump-based mobilization to cancel Netflix subscriptions, resulting in the company's highest monthly cancellation since February. Hashtag cancel Netflix trended for 3 days, and the streaming service saw its worst week of subscribers drop. Clearly, the disclosure comes with costs, but it is healthy for democracy. Towards the end of September, the Federal Communications Commission, U.S. government body overseeing media businesses, approved purchase of more than 200 radio stations in 40 markets by liberal business magnate George Soros-owned fund. The radio stations reach over 165 million listeners across the United States. Knowing Soros' links to Democrats, the decision drew criticism from Republicans. The Commission's 3 Democrats voted for the move, while the 2 Republicans voted against it. The decision to fast-track the approval process bypassed the National Security Review, which could have taken up to a year to complete, fueling concerns that the move was aimed at boosting Kamala Harris' campaign weeks before the November 5 elections. Republican representatives James Conner of Kentucky and Nick Langworthy of New York, both members of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, announced an investigation into the FCC's approval proceedings. They said the agency overlooked foreign ownership concerns to facilitate Soros' ownership stake. With all the noise and the news, voters sure know who's behind the content when they consume it on those respective platforms, be it Netflix or now Soros-owned radio stations. Again, good for democracy. Open Secrets, a non-profit tracking money in US politics and its impact on policy, has some interesting data. Going by donations, professions overwhelmingly Democrat include teachers, professors, software engineers, and entrepreneurs, lawyers. Both National Education Association and American Federation of Teachers donates overwhelmingly Democrat, giving a pittance to Republicans. Also, most of the organized unions, particularly in the municipal governance space, donate and hence vote Democrat. Those society groups putting their money on conservative and Republican campaign include British American Tobacco and some other old world agricultural businesses. Plus, of course, Musk. He formed the political action committee called America First. The New York Times recently did a long-form profile of Facebook Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg's engagement with politics. It was perhaps occasioned by Zuckerberg's public admission last month through a letter to the Congress that he was pressured by the Biden administration in 2021 into censoring some COVID-19 content, and that he was uncomfortable doing that. So much for the espousal of freedom of speech and expression by the American establishment. From being a left liberal in his 20s, during which he indulged in evangelism through his speeches, columns, and funding for liberal causes through his foundation, much like Musk is doing for the conservative ones now, Zuckerberg has become a political agnostic. In his 30s, he has made 2 phone calls to Trump this election cycle, and in the same letter to the US Congress, expressed clearly that he does not want to take any sides this time, unlike in 2020 when he clearly backed Democrat Biden, only to be forced by the Biden administration on COVID, and more significantly, on toning down coverage of the Biden family corruption saga involving Ukraine. Before I come to the picture in India, let's look at what impact this funding pattern has on the engagement the corporates have with society and governance in the United States. Musk moved Tesla headquarters from Democrat California to Republican Texas, citing high housing costs and impact of illegals on law and order as his reasons behind the decision. In the Sunshine State of Florida, there has been a long-standing feud between Disney, which donates exclusively to Kamala, and the Republican administration of Governor Ron DeSantis. Battle started when Disney opposed DeSantis' Don't Say Gay law, which banned discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in classrooms, as part of the larger culture war going on in the United States between conservatives and the woke left. Disney's opposition made the Republicans bring in a spate of laws, from increasing taxes to setting up a prison next to the Disney theme park, to taking away Disney's control over the local municipal district. Between Musk, Zuckerberg, and Disney, it becomes clear that corporate America is caught in the crossfire of the country's culture wars as it grows more polarized and firms face pressure from staff, customers, and shareholders on the left and the right to pick a side. We in India recently had our own share of election funding debate surrounding the electoral bonds issue. Traditionally, there's a certain squeamishness around who funds the political parties, particularly from the corporate side. Historically, we know how the House of Birlas bankrolled Mahatma Gandhi and the Congress Party's freedom movement. But that was for a non-partisan cause of India's independence. Since then, particularly during the suffocating socialist era of 1970s and 1980s, corporate funding had been shrouded in secrecy, giving little awareness to the public on who was pulling the strings. As the electoral bond debate showed, we are still shy of disclosures, perhaps a throwback to the old Gandhian morality, where all political players do not want to show how much of it costs to keep the democracy well-oiled, and who's paying for them. How much does it cost to organize a rally where leaders give those stump speeches, for example? When you talk in private, a typical political operative, irrespective of the ideological persuasion, would happily give you the numbers. It takes rupees 500 to 750 to cart in each person who's there in the crowds, even if they are party cadre. So do your math. If there are 100,000 people or 1 lakh people attending, a typical rally of that size would cost between 5 to 7.5 crores. Keep doing the math. 100 rallies by a political party in one campaign comes to about 500 to 750 crores. That's just one state campaign for one political party. If we are having 5 state elections per year and an average of 4 key players in each state, you are looking at rupees 10,000 to rupees 15,000 crores per year just for state elections. The general election campaign for the Lok Sabha every 5 years perhaps costs 5 times more for each party. And there are more players. If you extrapolate the numbers, you arrive at a ballpark figure of anything between rupees 1.5 lakh crores to rupees 2 lakh crores for a 5-year election cycle. And that excludes the expenses incurred by the Election Commission and other government agencies like the Home Ministry in the conduct of elections. And mind you, these are conservative figures. The actual cost, like the literal cost, could be on the higher side. Center for Media Studies, a New Delhi-based think tank, for example, has put the figure at rupees 1,35,000 crores just for the 2024 general elections. That's about 5% of this year's annual budget of India. Also, taken together, rupees 2 lakh or rupees 3 lakh crores every 5 years comes to anything between half a percentage point to 1% of India's current GDP. Who said democracy is cheap? But that's beside the point. All this money comes from somewhere, and if the voter knows the source and hence the influence, she is better informed and empowered to decide about her interests at the polling booth. That's why you appreciate this transparency. The argument in favor of disclosure or transparency is that one who pays the piper calls the tune. So if an individual or a corporation is making an extensive donation, they obviously are expecting something in return. Particularly in the case of for-profit companies, there's no charity. There's always an end, election funding being a means for that. In effect, political funding is about a quid pro quo, and it would be great if we follow the American example. Thanks for watching.